A lot is being done to respond to Foxconn. Could you share lessons learned so Wisconsin is ready to seize the next workforce challenge and the next and the next and the next?
That's great. Well, Dr. Waginke, thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here with my colleagues in education and very proud of the work that we continue to do collaboratively. And when you think about having Foxconn as one of the newest neighbors in southeastern Wisconsin and one that we are thrilled with at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside, it's too soon to talk about sort of lessons learned about Foxconn because we're early in that process. So I thought about my tenure at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. I'm in my 9th year, and so when I arrived in Wisconsin, we were just coming out of the recession. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and some of the things we've done in higher education to get us there and what those lessons were. But I think it's important for us to realize that this fourth industrial revolution is here, and Foxconn is going to be a part of that. People who possess the ability to learn and adapt, the new talent currency, will be among the most valuable employees in successful organizations. Along with my education colleagues, I know that our academic makeup will continue to produce talent with the ability to learn, to adapt, and to embrace change. As educators, we know that these folks, those who can learn, adapt and embrace change, will not only serve as good citizens, but will be the most sought out talent. And I believe that's what we are doing across the educational spectrum. The other thing is that at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside, we are proud to be neighbors with so many top quality businesses that have a worldwide reach. And we certainly welcome Foxconn to the neighborhood. As a neighbor, we will continue to focus on how this emerging economic vitality comes with the demand for more educators, social and environmental scientists, healthcare professionals, and those who enhance the quality of life through culture and the arts. And so when I think about lessons learned and things that we have been able to do in partnership with business and industry and in government, and as someone who's not from the region, I'm very proud of those partnerships that we have. The 3 key lessons that I take away that help us fully embrace what I see as the workforce opportunity are 3 things. One is collaboration. We've heard that word today a number of times. The world has been watching what is happening here in Wisconsin since Foxconn made the announcement to join our state, and we have shown that Wisconsin can work together. This spirit will be essential for continued success and as we expand new and existing relationships. The second key point or lesson learned is knowing that the vision of what is possible. Individuals need a clear vision of what is possible. When I had the opportunity to testify about Foxconn at the state legislature, I used one definition of the word horizon. It's the limit of one's mental perception. Seeing a vision for what is possible with Foxconn definitely is expanding our mental horizon. And the third part, again, something we've heard echoed today in our conversations, is a focus on education for all and education at all levels. And so our commitment will be to continue to partner with keep post-secondary offerings relevant and responsive to the changing economic needs. And I believe if we focus on collaboration, if we focus on believing what is possible and driving that vision, and our focus on education, we will continue to drive Wisconsin forward.
Thank you. The next question is for Brian. Could you talk about the similarities and differences in workforce challenges between your current employers with whom you work and new employers?
Yeah, Ralph, so I wish I could actually talk about that because I think when we heard from Dr. Wu this morning already that we are more alike than we are different. I think the similarities of the expectations of the workers of Wisconsin, and especially in our area, southeast Wisconsin, resonate strongly with the ability to be able to fully understand what industrial competency means. How do we really think about industrial machines and how they will change our life, and automation and systems operations. And so whether it's Foxconn, Amazon, Haribo, Uline, Snap-on Tools, Twin Disc, InSinkErator, all of those companies have a similar DNA about innovation. We heard it today from Blake from Rockwell as well, and that when we look toward the future, we got to really think about how we prepare our students with an educational pathway that's going to allow them to be successful. So I think there's 4 things, though, that maybe can help differentiate a little bit about what we're doing today and what we think we need to be doing in the future. And some of those changes are already taking place at Gateway Technical College and in all of our colleges across the state. They're in partnership with our local industries, so we have a great idea of what the types of expectations of employment are, including those important soft skills that are so critical to any individual going into any career path, but specifically addressing the advanced manufacturing cluster and types of things that I think are uniquely different that will position Wisconsin above other states to continue to advance, as the governor suggested, in manufacturing, are things like industrial competence and making sure that we engage in our K-12 system to help students understand at an early level what opportunities are available in advanced manufacturing, provide teachers professional development so they too can gain the skills necessary to deliver on those competencies, and competencies that are known to many of us in the manufacturing sector, but not necessarily known to all teachers that are teaching technology yet. It might even be teaching a manufacturing course, but haven't had a chance to think about systems operation, automation, and how those integrated technologies will change the life and the work patterns of future residents. The second key piece to that, though, is really digital literacy. And Industry 4.0 has been mentioned a couple of times already, and that's the collaboration between the digital literacy and the industrial competence. So it's the integration of the cyber world with the physical world. And the more we can help young people understand the importance of digital literacy, it'll help advance not only their own career path, but it'll help our society grow and advance much faster. So things like data analytics and understanding how data can be used to do predictive maintenance on machines, to think about how that might impact other industries that are related to manufacturing, but not necessarily producing a product like healthcare or IT, as the governor mentioned. So no matter what industry sector we think about students advancing their careers in, some level of industrial competence, some level of data analytics. And maybe the third level for that would be the whole idea of competency in the area of continued learning. So what we've learned with the great help of Foxconn and others is that we know very little about what the future has to offer. And the research and development divisions of our manufacturing partners give us insight to what changes are coming forward. And so you probably have heard some of the articles about driverless lanes in Racine County, and it's going to change the lives of the way that we think about delivering products and services. Those are things that we do not teach in our schools yet, but just that one mention of that has changed the way that we think about the way automotive industry ought to be delivered, the types of skills that students are learning in advanced manufacturing programs. And so we continue to listen and be a part of that dialogue to help think more critically about the types of skills that young people are going to learn. And all of that leads to probably the fourth, and maybe the answer that you're looking for, is what's different today than it was tomorrow, and what have we learned from some of the new partners that we have. And that's really this whole idea of advanced technical skills. The common denominator between all of our partnerships is that there aren't enough workers. And Blake mentioned many times that our goal now is to make sure that the workers that we do have are technologically competent so they can deliver upon what I just suggested, but also that we increase our capacity by helping other people gain those skills as well. And these are skills that are taught in many different aspects, but uniquely delivered by the integration of all of these different levels of learning. So things like mechatronics, the integration of mechanical electrical systems, things that help really drive the data analysis of those machines, and the way we think about industrial controls, and the way that we think about how we leverage the idea of controls to move machines and to move parts. So automation and robotics are a great platform for that. But it doesn't end there. We're advancing curriculum in the area of mechatronics, in the areas of advanced manufacturing, in the areas of data analytics, in the areas of IT, to really drive around a new cluster of programming called the Industrial Internet of Things. And those are the things that we take for granted every day, the way our phones work, the way our cars drive, the things that we just assume are going to happen, but it takes a smart technician to be able to deliver upon that. And so our goal, working with our partners, existing companies and new companies moving in, is to better understand how we position the types of curricular areas that we offer to prepare students for the smart world that we're moving into.
I should say quickly, though, I'm not looking for a specific answer. I'm really hoping we'll learn here today. So, next question. According to a survey of corporate leaders, the most important characteristics employers are looking for are what I call the 4 C's: creativity, critical reasoning, communication, and character. Can the 4 C's be taught? And Kaylin, that's your question.
Yes, I believe the 4 C's can be taught. But I think it is a social issue. It starts with families teaching those 4 C's as well into the K-12 and into technical colleges and post-secondary education altogether. It can be taught, but it has to be reinforced and it has to be modeled for students that are coming out to meet the needs of the employers. The one thing I found interesting in Mr. Moret's talk about the veterans and how they're serving the veterans is that those individuals, and one of my fellow presidents reminded me of this coming in, when you take veterans who have gone into boot camp for 6 to 8 weeks, and that's a very stringent, regimented process, they are learning those 4 C's. And then they come out and they go in and they do the next level of service, and they're again being reinforced in those. So they do make great employees because they already have embedded in them those 4 C's, those characteristics, critical thinking, communication are all embedded in them as they come out. When we have students that come in to WCTC, we are introducing, reinforcing, and assessing those critical life skills, as we call them. And they are integrated throughout our curriculum and also by I have 600 advisory committee members. We have an advisory committee for every program. And they provide the input into what those critical life skills are. So in our general education programming and in our programming, we talk about those critical life skills. We provide opportunities for students to continue to experience them, and then we also assess them so that we know when they're going out and they graduate that they possess those skills. But it is something that has to be continually experienced, and that goes beyond the educational system into the workforce. And so if you think of somebody who hasn't had that from their start in their family through K-12, it takes a village. I'm going to just say it. But I also will say that many factors go into how students demonstrate those: maturation, past experiences, motivation, and the student themselves. And I'll take the old joke that says, how many teachers does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the light bulb has to want to change.
Thank you. The next question is for Mike, and just a disclosure here, you're going to like his answer very much. Mike is also, in addition to being president of Marquette University, is the chair-elect of my board of directors. So he's my boss, so you will like this solution. The question is, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates that today's young adults will change jobs 12 to 15 times in their working years. Another study shows that 65% of the jobs our children will hold when they enter the workforce do not exist today. How can we prepare our workforce, not just for the knowledge economy, but for the unknown economy?
So I see you gave me an easy one, Rolf.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, when I think about this, the first thing you think about what's driving the change. Why are the jobs changing? And I think we all have to understand that technology is transforming every sector of our business in this country. And I like to think of it, we all probably familiar with Moore's Law. The computational power doubles every year, and it's been doubling every year for the past 50 or 60. And we're to the point now where a single 1-inch computer chip in 2023 will have more processing power than the human brain. And in 2045, that single 1-inch computer chip will have more processing power than all the brains in the world combined. And that is what is driving this change. And I can remember just 4 years ago, I was on Wall Street, and I was in Goldman Sachs on a trading floor where there was a football field worth of traders. I was looking at these millennials, sitting doing trading. And you go back today, and they're all gone because artificial intelligence and computation is now doing the trading because it's faster and more accurate. And so that's just one field, that's changing. And so how do we continue to provide those individuals that are particularly on our campuses the skills they're going to need to go forward into an unforeseen job market. And so you heard about the 4 C's. I think we have to prepare students, with those 4 C's. I think I'll add a couple of more. I think if students are innovative and entrepreneurial, they'll add value to any organization they're in. We heard about, critical thinking and problem solving and teamwork and communication. And when I think about those maybe 5 or 6 skills, there's a couple of things that I think we can help them learn from. One is many of those skills are actually not learned in technical fields. They're learned in the liberal arts and humanities. So I think that those are going to become important. And they've always been important, but maybe more important going forward in terms of addressing some of the skills students are going to need to be successful. The second thing is we have to transform the way we educate students. The standard classroom lecture model, is going to be obsolete if it's not already obsolete, because content that we give students in the classroom no longer has value because of the technology, the knowledge you can get from your smartphone. You can get any content, in an instant now. It's how you use that and master it and make society better with that knowledge and content that becomes really important. And so when I think about the future, the first thing I think we need to incorporate technology more at the universities, in higher education, in ways that the students get the content before they even come, into class. But in class, they work with each other, they work with the instructor on problems. And the second thing is it has to be very experiential. We have to bring the real world into that classroom, which means we have to work extremely closely with industry, because industry, we know how industry is changing so fast. We need the industry to be partnered in that classroom with us so that the skills that our students are learning and the things that they're working on are very relevant to what's coming down the pike in the future. And finally, I think we all have to understand, Debbie always likes to talk about learnability. We have to make sure our students can constantly learn going into the future. And we're already seeing transformation in higher ed today. For students in higher education, 70% of them today are non-traditional. They're not 18 to 24 and living on our campuses. And that number is continuing to go to a point where I think 20, 30 years from now, we may have almost all non-traditional students on our campuses. The second thing is, in higher ed today, 1/3 of students are all online, 1/3 are hybrid, and 1/3 are traditional. And those numbers are shifting tremendously to a point where we're probably going to have all online and all hybrid students in the near-term future. And so as we think about that, on our college campuses, how do we build facilities? How do we have our professors be able to educate in those environments? And again, there may be a day, again, 30, 40 years from now, where students don't come to us to get degrees. They come to get certified in certain skills, and we'll be giving them badges and other things rather than degrees, because they're going to constantly have to coming back to get retooled.
Ed, representing both a state agency and K-12 education and your business, could you talk about the quality of K-12 education as both an incentive for businesses to locate here and as a pathway to meaningful careers in tomorrow's workplace?
That's my question?
That's your
I
question.
thought my question was going to be, why am I here with 5 academics? Because clearly one of these things doesn't belong here, but it would be wrong for me to ask the 5 of you to leave. So. But I will answer your question, Ralph. And actually, I'll kind of take it in a step function. So there's no way around my conservative economic viewpoints coming out in my answer. So I'll start with kind of a top-down approach in 3 levels to the answer. So I've got this soapbox speech that I give, and I give it quite frequently, usually in smaller circles. But the first time I gave it in front of a notable crowd was Governor Walker's first public appearance after he pulled out of the presidential race. He gratuitously asked if Apache Stainless would host his first public appearance. So I had the chance to speak in front of a bunch of media, and I talk about what I call the 4 legs of the stool that drive private sector growth. And it's logistics, energy, workforce, and commerce-friendly government. And obviously the 4th piece of that was kind of the lead-in to the governor, because during his tenure, he's really created a commerce-friendly environment in the state of Wisconsin, which by no small coincidence has led to things like Foxconn and some of the great economic growth that we have. But one of the things that I've said for a long time is that, and Blake actually mentioned it and actually asked the question this morning, kind of the open-ended question, is workforce going to be a pacing item? And my personal opinion is it already is. So I'm a big proponent of some of the economic policies and reforms going on, some of the tax reform discussions, but that's the commerce-friendly government piece. To me, the pacing item we have right now is people. So we can do all the cool things, the logistics, the energy, the infrastructure, all that stuff, and all the economic-friendly commerce growing activities, but until we do something about workforce, we've got a challenge. So that's the macro piece. The second piece of this is what's the purpose of education? And this will tie into why I'm here representing K-12, because they couldn't be here today, that's why. And the second piece of this is what is the role of education? And for those of you who get the Wisconsin Business Voice, the October of 2016 issue, a little over a year ago, I wrote an article, and that's the first time I've said, at least in print, commerce is the end customer of the educational process. So as an economic conservative, I think about it as a supply chain. So I'm a supplier, Apache Stainless Equipment, 200 Industrial Drive, Beaver Dam, there's our plug, is a supplier to a lot of companies. And if my customers get our product and it's not on time, it needs to be reworked, and the cost is wrong, guess what happens to me? I'm no longer a supplier. So the educational process to commerce as the supply chain, you know, throughout the state, there's one thing I've learned in my 3 or 4 or 5 years being involved in workforce development. We've got all kinds of really cool grassroots things going on in Dodge County. We've got our Manufacturing Business Alliance, which Pam Korth, the pound for pound the best HR manager in the state, is the chairperson of. She leads this group. These are really kind of workaround programs if you think about it, because if supply chain did what we needed and we got the quantity, quality, and timeliness of the people we needed, we wouldn't have hundreds of grassroots efforts going on around the country. So that kind of leads to the third piece, the K-12 piece, and why I'm speaking on behalf of K-12. There's an initiative going on, and if you jot this down, I encourage you to Google it. It's the Wisconsin Regional Career Pathways Project. If you Google that, my involvement with this has been a little over 2 years now, and it's a commerce-led project where K-12 is listening to commerce as the customer. And what do we need to do to be different, to be a better supply chain? And there's no simple answer, or there's simple answers. The actual execution is the challenge. And some of it is awareness. You know, we talk about the skills gap. I've got 4 daughters, 2 in college and 2 in high school. And I can tell you that they don't aspire to be anything that they don't know exists. And there's a lot of really cool career opportunities out there, underserved as far as demand is in excess of supply, well-paying, probably fits, you know, their natural interests and aptitudes, but they don't know they exist, so they spend the first year or 2 years of college trying to figure it out, and that's not a cool time to be figuring it out. They should know in advance. So some of the things going on at the K-12 level are academic career plans that became state law in August of this year, a couple months ago, where kids 6th grade through 12th grade, they set up a profile in career cruising, and then as this becomes more mature, they'll be able to see which opportunities are out there and possibly reach out to somebody on the commerce side of the world, which is the Inspire Wisconsin platform. Career Cruising and Inspire linked together, and reach out to somebody who's an electrical engineer and say, what do you do every day? What do you have to take in college or in high school, or what do you get paid? Those types of things. So it opens up the breadth of opportunities. Some of it is the 4 C's. You know, the teach to test aspect, the way education, now I'm speaking on behalf of my personal opinion, maybe K-12 wouldn't agree with this, but I can tell you my oldest daughter, who's a senior at Oshkosh, she used to tell me in high school, Dad, you know, she was a good student because she applied a great effort. She goes, I stink at taking tests. And I said, hey, Shay, you're in luck. You will not have to take a test when you go get a job. You know, that you'll do that to get your degree, and then we'll have to rework you to get you ready to be additive to the workforce. So some of it is, you know, changing the way we educate. And the third piece, I think, is changing the measures of success. I think people tend to behave, us in the private sector, our employees will behave in the way we measure them and manage them. And if the main measures of success in K-12 or ACT scores or in truancy or whatever else they may be, guess what they're going to focus on? Because there's multiple pathways, and it can't be you're a university kid, you're a winner, and everything else is a plan B. There's plans A through Z, and they're all good plans. If it additive to commerce that leads you to a place where you're using your aptitudes and your interests, and you know it's part of that supply chain. So,
given Wisconsin's demographics, this is for Mark, talent development, talent attraction are both essential. What is education's role in talent attraction?
Well, it's a great question, and I think actually it's one of the big reasons why so many people are here. And I'll come at this from 3 different angles. And the first one is the issue of talent needs. And I don't think there's ever been a time where the talent needs are more urgent. And again, I think that's why this conference sold out as quickly as it did. And I think that bringing together industry, particularly manufacturing and education, is an important intersection. And it's absolutely necessary for strengthened partnerships to be further developed. But let me put some numbers and let's put some scale on this. We have, working with Tim Sheehy at MMAC, historically, Tim, we've talked a lot about the projected needs, and Tim has addressed the Board of Regents, he's talked to a number of different universities, and he continues to talk about the projected workforce needs. And we're not talking about 2023 or 2030 or 2040 anymore, we're talking about right now. And those numbers, Tim, I think you've talked about conservatively would be 80,000, but maybe as much as 95,000. We feel that. Everybody feels that. I can't go to a meeting with the business community without becoming, there becoming a lot of conversation about the gap. So I think that's one thing that we see right now. As we project this, things aren't going to get any better. They absolutely are going to be more severe. When we look at MRA data, and we've talked about this, it's been something that President Cross has shared a number of different times, a number of different settings. If we look at 2040, what we see is the actual numbers look in the neighborhood of about 0.4% of the growth will be in the 18 to 65-year-old range, which is our workforce. That's pretty grim. And then if you look at beyond that, 65 and above, that's where we have 95+% of the growth. And then, of course, 0 to 4 or 5 is where there's a small percentage as well. So the demographics suggest for higher ed, so the first answer to the question, I think everybody on this panel and certainly across the state in terms of higher ed, we are all looking at external, out-of-state students, international as well as out-of-state. Chicago, by the way, has been our friend in that particular regard. Many places in Illinois today, you can find that our education, with the cost of education escalating dramatically, we're actually much more affordable in the state of Wisconsin, so that's a good thing. So that's one answer. We've got to do more. We've got to bring more talent in. But here's another way I look at this question. It's the second component, and I call it alignment. You may not know, I'm going to use the number 180 three different ways. First, we have 180,000 students, roughly, in higher ed in the southeastern 23 academic institutions, public and private. If you look at any strong economy, it's based on that kind of talent magnet. If you go to Boston, if you go to Austin, if you go to the Bay Area, it really is around that talent concentration. So that's critical. The second component, the second 180,000, is that across the state, across the University of Wisconsin system, we have almost 180,000 students. So this is a statewide talent availability. Side plug, the third 180 is that we've got almost 180,000 Panthers, UWM graduates, that are here, majority of them in the state. Proud legacy that we have. But these numbers, when you put them together with the first answer, there's something that isn't quite working. What's not quite working here is the issue of alignment. And we've got to do more. And this is something where I put a call out and I say, we need more visibility. And I think conferences like this are absolutely critical to make sure that educators and especially students, that the future generations are absolutely crystal clear on those opportunities. Now I can tell you that those of us on this panel are doing more every day around that, the alignment with some of the key strategic priorities, what the University of Wisconsin system has identified in terms of alignment with workforce needs, whether it's in STEM, health, entrepreneurial areas. UWM, we add some of the water components with our School of Freshwater Science. Those are critical to the talent needs that we have. The third piece, the third answer, would be really one that I talk about in terms of what the university's role is in terms of the partnerships. And they've all been hinted at here, but I think about the partnerships that we have with K-12, the types of things. Mike has been instrumental, Mike Lovell, both at UWM and at Marquette in terms of the Milwaukee Succeeds work. Today, the types of things that we're doing across our universities called the Commons, giving students opportunities that they would never have, that they say those opportunities in industry to get entrepreneurial, innovative types of work is as valuable as what they learn in school, and it's that great transitioning. So partnerships with K-12, partnerships with each other, partnerships with industry. The kind of work that we're doing, Mike Laskowitz, some of the leadership work that you've presented, Mike, in terms of our partnerships around connected systems and other types of things. We can go through the room and talk about the important partnerships that we have. Brian, you mentioned a number of those types of things, the different, whether it's manufacturing, healthcare, financial services, high-tech sector, those are absolutely critical for the future. So I think it's working to bring more talent in, but if there's one key point, it's really cultivating and doing a better job of the alignment of what we actually have. These types of discussions, I think, are really important for the connective tissue to make sure that we maximize those opportunities and take care of Wisconsin residents first. So.
I see the time clock is not yet flashing, so we have a few minutes. Would anyone like to comment on anyone else's answer to any of the questions, or raise a point that we haven't addressed through the questions? Now would be the time to do it for a few minutes.
I think I'd like to draw on what Mark was just talking about, the alignment. And there have been some cases, which he just mentioned, that when we did align together, we had great outcomes. And I think the Commons is a perfect example. If you're not familiar with the Commons, the 23 academic institutions in southeastern Wisconsin got together and decided that we wanted to work together on innovation and entrepreneurship. And so the Commons is initiative in Innovation Milwaukee, so we have a space in Ward 4 and our downtown where students from all of our campuses can go and find each other. Students that want to start their own businesses can pitch their ideas to other students. Companies that want to have challenges solved come in and pitch ideas to students, and the students self-select to work on these. And what happened when we did the Commons, we have many, many unexpected outcomes, but I think the one that we're most proud of is the students that are involved in the Commons that have come into this synergistic space are 81% more likely to stay in southeastern Wisconsin than those that don't. And these are our most innovative and entrepreneurial students, which we want to keep in the region. And by working together and having the universities work together with industry in a unique way, we really are addressing the issue, which Mark was answering, that we can keep the most talented students here, the 180,000 students, we can keep them in the region to help fill this pipeline we need.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. I think what sometimes is not shown light enough on is the articulation availability for students to transfer from 2-year colleges to 4-year colleges. And we have articulation agreements with everyone up on the podium here and many others throughout the state, so it doesn't have to be one path. As Ed said, there are many different ways a student can achieve success, and we want to try to continue to extend those in different locations around the state and really think about Wisconsin way beyond just the borders of our own state. I mean, we heavily have an influence in northern Illinois, so that market is available to us. We know other regions of the state have access to the Minnesota market and the Michigan market, and if we can collectively celebrate the uniquenesses that we have, but also the strength of the entire system, I think we can do a great job in enhancing the governor's marketing strategy that he shared with us earlier.
So it all comes back to what Dr. Foy said when she started. We're here to a living example of collaboration and working together. And with that, this panel is over on time.